correct. Let's give you a sense of how the markets are performing this morning. The JSE could move higher on Thursday, joining a broad rebound in global markets amid hopes of a ceasefire in the Russia-Ukraine standoff. Brent crude was up just more than 2% to $113 a barrel. This was in early trade, having dropped substantially from 14-year highs of about $130. While investors, on the other hand, are dumping gold, leaving the gold price down 0.69%. Let's talk now through these developments and other market stories. We speak to Chantal Marx. She is head of equity research at FNB Wealth and Investments. Chantal, good morning to you. Your overall view of how the JSE opened this morning, how are things looking?
Most stocks listed on the JSE are actually up this morning. We have the overall index up 0.8% odd the last time I looked, really driven by industrials, a nice rebound in financials, and that of course indicative that SA Inc. is performing well. Even resources up ever so slightly despite a pullback in most of the big names again for a second day in a row after they rallied strongly since the start of the Ukraine-Russia war.
Yeah, with the global risk appetite gaining traction, Chantal, safe haven plays took a bit of a knock. Talk us through those developments and the overall commodity movements so far.
So the oil price is slightly up this morning, but for very high figures, as you mentioned in your introduction as well. I mean, at one point we were looking at Brent crude oil at around $140 a barrel, and now it's back to the mid-110s a barrel. So we are seeing Sasol coming under pressure. Gold prices have also retreated from over $2,000 an ounce to under $2,000 an ounce. So the gold miners are also coming off, and the knock-on impacts are there, right? So you are seeing platinum group metal prices under pressure, so the PGM miners are coming down because of lower energy costs generally. Gold prices are coming down. The expectation is that they will also, I mean, the worst performing stock on the JSE today is Exxaro, which is a coal miner.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk company news for a bit then. Telkom pushing back its listing of its masts and towers business, and it's all because of the uncertainty in global financial markets. Another example of how this war, the Russia-Ukraine war, is affecting local firms.
Yes, and it was pretty disappointing because it was expected to unlock quite significant value for Telkom specifically and by extension its shareholders. You'll remember that in 2020 when the market was super volatile, 91 still pushed through with its listing. It was unbundled from Investec at the time. But I think the key difference here is that 91 was unbundled to shareholders, so it was listed and it was shareholders' problem, whereas Telkom is looking to sell a stake in SwiftNet, which it was meant to list, which means that it is dependent on market valuation in terms of how much cash it gets. And unfortunately, when conditions are this crazy and volatile, it's probably not a good time to try and sell anything.
Yeah, let's talk Sanlam. It's published its annual results for the year which ended 31 December 2021. How have they performed?
It was a pretty solid performance, I think. So we did know that they were going to do quite well. Obviously coming off a very underfunding base, so 2020 was a really tough year for Sanlam, and understandably so. But they've moved ahead of 2019 on almost every single metric. So aside from just a recovery from 2020, we've actually seen them exceed 2019 level. And that I think is key. And another key thing is that they didn't really sacrifice margin, which is an important thing to watch within life insurance, because you could write business, right? You can sell policies, but if they're at terrible terms for the insurer, they're not going to be profitable. And Sanlam managed to write new business very favorable terms, still at very favorable terms. It's something they do quite well. So I think investors will like this result.
Sure. All right, let's conclude the conversation with Nigeria's tax authorities, which have settled just over $4.4 billion tax dispute with the local company here, MultiChoice. Is MultiChoice completely out of the woods here?
It does seem as if they are out of the woods for now, but as we've seen with Nigerian authorities, it's very difficult to predict. I mean, MTN has been at the end of the long arm of the Nigerian state several times before, and I think that with MultiChoice you could see something similar. It could create a permanent overhang on the share price. The fact that this specific lawsuit is settled, I think, will be quite positive for them. They're still going to pay a hefty fine, and it seems as if they're going to have to list their Nigerian operation in Lagos. But, I mean, the latter is not an issue. I think it will, if anything, be quite a good thing for the company. But, yeah, risk in Nigeria remains. It's not going away anytime soon.
Chantal Marx, thank you very much for that update. Head of Equity Research at FNB Wealth and Investments.